Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm giving you a full review of the Skoda T27. This is a Tier 8 Czechoslovakian premium medium tank that has an autoloader with an 88mm main armament. This is the second Czechoslovakian premium vehicle in the game after the Skoda T40, but nobody really wants to play that. I think most people want to be up at Tier 8 where they can make some good credits, and the fact that the Skoda T40 that doesn't have an autoloader doesn't pair well with vehicles like the Skoda T50 and the TVP T50/51 at Tier 10. And let's be honest, if you've played the Czechoslovakian autoloaders, yeah, I mean, the name really says it to itself. You want to play the autoloaders at Tier 9 and Tier 10, which makes the prospect of having a premium Skoda T27 at Tier 8 with an autoloader quite exciting. So stick around as I'm going to let you know everything there is to know about this vehicle, let you know how it stacks up to some of its Tier 8 competition, and of course, christen it on the battlefield with some gameplay. So when I was thinking about reviewing the Skoda T27, the comparison didn't really make sense when I compared it to the standard Tier 8 Czechoslovakian medium tank, the TVP VTU. In the broad terms, really, because the Skoda T27 has an autoloader, if you manage to use it and fire in bursts, it's the better tank. However, if you don't get to use the autoloader effectively and a single shotgun would be superior, then the TVP VTU is going to be the best tank in this comparison, especially with the gun handling advantage it has over the Skoda. Then I realized the best way for us to find out whether the Skoda T27 is a good tank is to compare it to the Italian auto-reloading Progetto 46, which everyone will know is one of the best premium medium tanks in the game. And so if the Skoda T27 can trade blows with the Italian auto reloader, then we know we've got something to look forward to. So immediately we'll notice the Skoda T27 has one of the worst damage per minute of any Tier 8 medium tank at 1,565. But all autoloaders usually have very poor DPM. And it's the fact that they get to reload between the engagements and then burst out their damage that is the balancing mechanic, or shall I say amplifies that damage per minute, because they're storing it up and then releasing it when they actually need to. So take this with a pinch of salt. The fact that the Skoda T27, while it might look like it has very bad damage per minute, all autoloaders kind of pump it up a little bit more. However, the Progetto 46 with its auto-reloading capacity, if the tank fires in single shot mode, it actually has 1,800 DPM, so it will outperform the Skoda T27. But remember, with the Progetto 46, that its reload goes from 8 seconds to 12 seconds after you fired the entire magazine, and then your damage per minute will be way worse than the Skoda will be. So both of these tanks have a clip size of 3 rounds, and the Skoda T27 with its 88mm will in turn have 720 damage, which it will be able to deliver within 3.6 seconds of the first shot, and that's because this vehicle has one of the best intra-clip reloaders on any autoloader in the game at 1.8 seconds. A lot like the Skoda T50 at Tier 9, although that tank has 320 alpha damage with its 100mm gun. So this means the Skoda T27 is going to be capable of bursty combat, superior to even the Progetto 46. And when we compare it to the Lorraine, for example, which has a much bigger magazine, but is doing 300 damage every 2.5 seconds. And so consequently, the Skoda T27 is going to be one of the best bursters at Tier 8 medium, and you're even going to be able to link in your magazines between some of the faster reloading tanks in the game. Next, let's talk about the penetration of the vehicle. 202 on its standard rounds, that's really not very good. Even the Progetto with 212 feels like it struggles a little bit, so that means that you may more often than not be dabbing that 2 key to gain 242mm of penetration, but again, that's poor compared to the Progetto 46's 259. Thankfully, the shell velocity on both its standard rounds and its premium rounds are excellent, and so you're going to be able to snipe fairly decently at long ranges, something that the Progetto kind of fails with its standard rounds, as we can see here, as its shell velocity is 929, 121 meters a second slower than the Skoda T27. This vehicle also carries more than enough ammunition to be able to get the job done, so you're going to be able to take a plethora of rounds, so you can be economical in your good matchups, but also have a lot of premium rounds ready for when you get into those Tier 9 and Tier 10 games. Alright, next up, let's take a look at the gun handling. 2.2 seconds aim time compared to the 2.1 seconds the Progetto has. 0.38 accuracy. Oh, that's a bit stinky. That's really not the most accurate vehicle But I don't know about you guys, but for me, most of the Skodas, at least at tier 9 and tier 10, I'm kind of fighting in more close quarters combat to be able to get those bursty rounds out. But nevertheless, if you're sniping in this tank, combine that with the relatively poor penetration that the vehicle has, I expect it to be fairly inefficient at long-range combat, especially compared to the Progetto's fantastic .33 accuracy. The gun handling on this vehicle is also worse while moving and while turning the turret, which will further make that aim time a little bit worse. So I definitely recommend that you take vertical stabilizers and probably even vents on this tank as well, because remember, this vehicle can't use a gun rammer unlike the Italian tank can, and we should really also take that into comparison when I was reviewing the damage per minutes of this vehicle. That while sure, it's an advantage to use vents because that's going to make up 2.5% of the difference, but the Progetto, to all intents and purposes, is going to have 7.5% increased damage per minute over the statistics that you see here, just because an auto reloader can use a gun rammer unlike a regular autoloader like the Skoda T27 can. One thing that I should mention, and I hardly ever actually have to talk about this statistic, is there is a special stat for how far the reticle will bloom after firing. And we can see that the Skoda T27 is 3, whereas the Progetto 46 is 3.5. So this should at least help with the fact that you've got that awesome intra-clip reload of 1.8 seconds, so you can be fully aimed in between your shots. The elevation on this vehicle is a very normal 20 degrees, and the depression is 8 degrees, which I believe is the same as the Skoda and the TVP at tier 10. And so if you're used to using those vehicles, then you're going to be used to using these ones as well. All right, next up, mobility. 50 kilometers an hour forwards, 20 backwards. Definitely not the best, but certainly not the worst. The power to weight ratio, on the other hand, is excellent at 22.5 per ton. On the other hand, the turret traverse on this vehicle is nice at 40 degrees, and the tank traverse is 2 degrees worse than the Progetto, and we can see that those ground resistances affect the vehicle significantly on hard and medium terrains. Alright, so now let's move on to the armor and health of this vehicle. This is where it's pretty good news for this tank. It's got 65mm of armor at the front of the vehicle, but unlike the Progetto, which is fairly flat and quite blocky in my opinion, if we take a look at the Skoda T27, look at that upper hull, very well angled, and look at the lower hull plate as well, very well angled indeed. This tank's almost got a pike nose, which means if you angle it like this, you're probably going to pull off some miracle bounces, especially if they land towards the outside of this beak. And if you don't angle it at all, then you might occasionally bounce some tier 6 tanks, especially if you use the gun depression of the vehicle and they're shooting up at you. But as the hull armor is still only 65, don't expect it to work miracles, but at least you're not going to get overmatched. The turret armor as well is 100mm thick. Now, I haven't been able to test the mantlet of the vehicle, but any Skoda T50 and TVP T50/51 drivers will know that while the turret is a bit of a shot catch, it can pull off some miracle bounces. And there's no doubt that I think that this tank with its 100mm of armor is going to perform much better with regards to its turret than the Progetto does with its horrible 80. So the hit points of this vehicle are 1,350. The engine health is a little bit more, but one thing that really sucks about this tank is that the view range is 380, which is 10 meters less than the Progetto. But then again, I guess because you're taking vents on this tank, that's probably going to balance it out, because of course you're probably going to be taking coated optics, a gun rammer, and vertical stabilizers on the Italian auto reloader, so that extra 2.5% that you will get will be useful and kind of balance out the differences here. But of course, you're losing the DPM from not being able to use a gun rammer, right? The fire chance is 12.5%, and the shell cost is very economical, as long as you're, of course, not dabbing that 2 key, and as all tier 8 medium tank drivers will know, as soon as you do, the 4,400 cost to be able to do 240 damage to your opponents. You're not going to be making very many credits that way. Anyway, I think that's quite enough talking. Let's see how it performs on the battlefield. So here we go, we're rolling out on Fisherman's Bay in an all tier 8 match, but there are some gold players on the enemy team that we're probably going to have to watch out for as well. So let's take a look at the Skoda T27's model. Pretty much looks as if they've taken the tier 9 Skoda T50 and just squashed it a little bit. It's definitely a very fat tank. Like, it's wide. It's a wide boy, this vehicle, so you're not going to be able to miss it. This is going to be a very juicy thing for a tank destroyer to shoot, let me tell you. You're seeing these all run around on the battlefield, you should be a happy camper. Wargaming have embellished the model a little bit, but I don't really think that they've... sorry to that Batchat 12T for going in there, a bit ignorant, but at least I didn't push him all the way out. Luckily, hopefully, we didn't manage to get him too messed up there, and we're going to be able to put some rounds down onto the M4190. Come on, we're going to kill him. Oh, I didn't do 472 damage to him. Somebody must have hit him just as we did as well. And then look at the reload. Get a feel for how long the reload is going to be. It's a little bit of an awkward reload on this tank. So let's talk about the model again. I feel like Wargaming might have been able to embellish it a little bit more. I mean, it's definitely a okay looking tank. It's definitely a little bit novel, but nothing too special in my opinion. If you're wondering about the style that I have on this vehicle, yeah, Wargaming are not giving this tank a unique style so far. So a lot of you may be wondering, but you've got a whole gigantic Czech flag on the side of your vehicle. Tell us about it, right? So obviously Wargaming put this style in towards the end of last year. I think it was in October to celebrate 100 years of the independence of Czechoslovakia, which of course is now two distinct countries, the Czech Republic and Slovakia. But, so yeah, I really like this style. I love putting it on all my Czech tanks, and I noticed that a lot of you guys also like doing it as well, so that's pretty cool. Alright, so I'm just basically going to be using this bush. This bush is a very interesting one. Let me try and explain it if we can get out of the sniper mode. So for some reason, I don't know why this is, but these bushes seem to work. Maybe because they're very thick and extra bushy. But when we make our way over here for the enemy tanks, whenever they use this row of bushes, for some reason, they just don't seem to work. I don't get why that is. And it looks like that FE4202, we managed to put a couple of rounds into him there and lock down his tracks. So when you're using this position, you can go into these bushes and you're going to be pretty safe. Now, if you're in some tank with terrible camera rating, we know where the IS-3 is now, so we ping the map to let our team know there is a tank down there. If you're using a tank with horrible camera rating, probably can't make use of these bushes too safely. But all I'm saying is don't try and hide here, because it just doesn't work if you're on the enemy team, and I don't know why that is. I would love to actually have some kind of modification that showed what the camera rating of all the bushes were in World of Tanks. Obviously I wouldn't use it in the live gameplay, but maybe it'd be fun to install that and then run around. Anyway, we've put one into the Emil 1951 and a second one, and that's where this vehicle is really nice. You know, having that 1.8 second inter-shot reload is fantastic. I definitely love having that feel on the Tier 9, and I love having the 1.5 second intra-clip reload that the TVP has. Oh, mistake CDC. There's one, there's two, and we don't get to put the third in, unfortunately. But because we pulled back behind the bushes, he didn't even spot us there. Huge mistake by the CDC. It's easy to get carried away in this position, especially when they won't be seeing most of us. For some reason, the bushes on our side work, and the bushes on the enemy side don't work. If you think this is unfair, yes, I think it is, and Wargaming should try and address this. One thing I will mention is that for some reason the bushes here definitely do work. But the problem is that the tanks don't usually hide around here, whereas the enemy team are often like in locations around here, and these bushes can see all the way around there, but for some reason the bushes here can't really get deep vision. I guess it's because of the way that the gap works through the center of the map. So, let's talk a little bit more about the auto reloader on this vehicle, as I'm pushing forwards to hopefully be able to finish off the Progetto. Look at that bloom, it's definitely not great shooting on the move. We put one in, and then bam, right to the top of the turret. Nice shot. Our third kill secured of the game. But I just realized, oh, this is a little bit dodgy. I'm now out in the open for all the heavy tanks, the Soviet heavy tanks, with big alpha damage guns that will be able to overmatch me down below. So I've got to try and make my way out of there as quickly as I can. So as I was mentioning, I just love the 1.5 second intra-clip reload on the Tier 10 Czechoslovakian auto reloader. One thing I will mention though is that the 240 damage that this vehicle does feels a little bit underwhelming. If you're used to the 320 alpha damage that the Skoda T50 has, it definitely feels awesome at Tier 9. And to have 4 rounds and 1.5 second intra-clip reload at Tier 10 feels amazing. Now, does 240 feel special at Tier 8? Well, I think against some Tier 10 tanks, they're going to think as if you're just kind of like not doing too much damage to them. But against a Tier 8 tank like this, apart from when you bounce off the side, luckily we can put one into the back and lock his tracks down, and put a second to lock his tracks down. I mean, does the IS-3 really care that much? I dealt 257 damage to him with those 2 shots. Fair enough, one of them didn't go in as it could have, and I thought this defender was going to be hunting me. But is that really the end of the world for him? 500 damage. I mean, most of the time I'm going to be doing... Sorry, 400. I actually only dealt like 450 damage to him because I low rolled there. Is 450 damage really that scary? Well, I mean, if this thing in front of me shoots me, I take 440 on average. And then he doesn't have to reload for pretty much about 20 seconds, even if you have an exceptionally skilled crew and you're using the special, what is this premium consumable? It's Buchty, right? Yeah, Buchty. If you're using your Buchty on your Czechoslovakian auto reloaders, I just think that tanks like this, yeah, sure, they can be pretty good, but 240 alpha damage just doesn't feel significant. And I think that the fact that these tanks have lost a lot of alpha compared to the tier 9 autoloader, the Skoda T50, without having 4 rounds, so to say, in this tank. I just don't think it does quite as well as the Progetto will, because the Progetto obviously has the option to just fire single shots. And when you can fire single shots, what you do is you whittle your opponent's hit points down to the point where they're at about 650, and then you go in, and then you put your 3 shells in to finish them off. With this vehicle, if you're having to fight a 1v1 engagement with somebody who's got 1,000 hit points, I guess you've got to shoot them twice, right? You've got to shoot them twice, you'll do about 480 damage to them, then you're going to lower them down to about 520 hit points, and then you've got to reload for 20 seconds, and then you've got to go in and unload your 3 shells again within that 3.6 second gap that you have after your first shot, and just hope that they haven't killed you by then. So yeah, the damage per minute on this vehicle is definitely a letdown. If you're used to having the decent DPM of the tier 9 and the tier 10, you're not going to have it with this tank, for sure. However, if you're a patient player who likes autoloaders and likes playing premium autoloaders that can make a lot of credits for you, and you give this tank the respect that it deserves, and don't play too aggressively, and let the battle develop, and don't try and force the tempo too much, then I think this vehicle can be very rewarding. As we've seen so far in the gameplay, I've picked up 4 kills, 2,400 damage, and I got 1,200 spotting. And now that my team have finished off the southwest of this map, I'm feeling fairly chipper about the fact that they're going to hopefully continue to advance along that western flank, and then we'll have surrounded our opponents, and we should be able to take down this game. So, the Skoda T27. I've already really talked everything there is to know about this vehicle, I feel. I'm just going to keep talking about my initial impressions of the tank and how I feel about whether I think that it's going to be worth the probably very hefty price tag that Wargaming are going to be putting on it. Oh, nice clutch shot into the bat chat there. Yeah, the aim time on this tank is definitely not horrific. It's not going to be blooming out massively. Definitely feels like it has better gun handling for me than the Lorraine does. But, as I've shown, not as good as the Progetto will have. So, is it going to be worth the money? Well, this is where I think that the vehicle's a bit funny, because I've shown that the Progetto is the better tank. I can't really find too many reasons why this vehicle would be better than the Progetto, apart from those strange situations where all you have to do is unload 3 vehicles and then have a big gap in the gameplay and the combat, because this tank will have the same or even slightly higher damage per minute than the Progetto if all you're going to do is fire 3 shots and then reload, and then 3 shots and then reload. This vehicle will be superior to the Progetto for that. However, I think most Progetto players, once they've managed to perfect their playstyle in the tank, will be using the advantage of the auto-reloader to do things that a tank like this just simply can't. As I mentioned, just being able to lower your opponent's hit points to a point where then you can go in and make use of the autoloader gives the Progetto just a huge advantage over this tank. And I felt like this vehicle needed something just a little bit more. Maybe it needed 300 alpha damage, for example. Would having 300 alpha damage on this tank make it overpowered? Maybe. I just feel like it needed possibly a little bit more. But I'm quite happy that there's going to be a vehicle going into the game that I think is pretty balanced. Because I don't want every premium tank that goes into World of Tanks to be outrageously OP. Because undoubtedly, premium tanks need to be as good as their tier 8 counterparts, or even, in my opinion, maybe a little bit worse. Why? Because most people are running 5-skill crews in their premium tanks. Most people are willing to use a premium consumable, because if they buy it when it's on discount for 10,000 credits, then they're easily going to be able to afford it, because they're making hundreds of thousands of credits by just playing for a few times inside the tank, or even they're making hundreds of thousands of credits in a single game if they're running premium consumables. So the fact that everybody has got really good crews in their premium tanks means that it kind of amplifies their performance even more. And it's very unusual to find somebody who absolutely loves a standard tank until you get to tier 10 that much where they're willing to be able to invest the time in putting in very experienced crews. Alright, so I'm asking my team to wait for me because I feel like pushing around and trying to make the flanking play. I was quite surprised that my team didn't continue down the western flank and instead made their way around here. So I'm going to advance towards the bushes that we see here because I saw that the Su-130 PM got spotted in the combat. And so now that I know it's only the Kanonen Jagdpanzer, we don't know how many hit points he's on. He was last spotted in this location. If he's on full hit points, I'm going to be in a bit of a situation here. Luckily, he's 806. Maybe I can high roll. 2 more high rolls will do it. No? Okay, I'm not going to be able to kill him with the extra shot. But what I can do, on the other hand, is ram him to death while I'm reloading. There you go. There's the extra shell that I needed in the magazine, right? Or there's the 300 alpha damage per shot that we would have had in the Lorraine. Got to make up for it somehow. And we managed to finish off the Tier 8 German premium tank destroyer with our Skoda T27. So this was a great game for the Skoda T27 with a fantastic finish, picking us up a Top Gun. This was 1,378 base experience for the 3,450 damage that we dealt with, 1,231 assistance, getting us an ace tanker, and we made a decent profit. Although, funnily enough, when I have uploaded this onto the QuickyBaby Replays website, it doesn't show the full picture. QuickyBaby Replays suggests that we received 76,000 credits and we got 50,000 as some kind of an event reward. Luckily, I actually took a screenshot of the post-game stats and we received 114,000, got 50,000 for an event reward, giving us 164,000 total before we spend on repairing the vehicle and resupplying the ammunition. Long story short, 144,000 credits profit minus the 50k, 94,000 credits profit for a game like this with a premium account, and without a premium account it would still be 56,000 credits profit. And so the Skoda T27, do I think that this is an absolute fabulous tank that is a must-have for every tanker out there? No, not at all. If you have the Progetto 46, I think that it will be the superior tank, especially in the hands of a very capable player. I'm not saying that the Skoda T27 is going to be noob friendly. I'm just saying that having an auto reloader allows you to whittle down your opponents and then go in to finish them off. I think it's far higher skill cap than just reloading an entire magazine and then unloading it, and then reloading an entire magazine and doing the same thing all over again. The Skoda T27 is really going to fill a niche for a couple of tankers. Number one, people who just absolutely love Czechoslovakian vehicles, and they just absolutely must have every single Czechoslovakian tank in the game. Secondly, people who love Czechoslovakian autoloaders. They love the Skoda T50, they love the TVP T50/51, and you guys want to have a premium tank so you can train your crews and make decent credits, because let's be honest, your only option at the moment is to play the Skoda T40. It's not an auto reloader, it's not really, it's going to train your crews, but it's definitely not going to give you a huge amount of credits. So the T27, it fulfills a niche. And I'm quite happy about this tank because I don't think it's going to be crazy overpowered. If it is, then that means that I guess the Lorraine and the Progetto 46 are also overpowered as well. But I still think it's strong enough to justify having its place in World of Tanks. And I'm sure if it was more powerful than it is, everyone would be saying, oh, it's overpowered, it's overpowered. And I'd far rather have more premium tanks that go into the game that fulfill a niche, give an interesting playstyle, which is novel and you're not possible to be able to play like this inside the regular tech tree, but not be going around and destroying matches. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for the T27. That's it for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Skoda T27 yourself. Can you not wait to be able to pick one up? You're going to jump to be able to get one as soon as you possibly can? Or do you think that it looks a little bit lame and you'd rather stick with some of your autoloaders that you already have? And as always, thank you so much for watching. Good luck in 1.6, which was just released today. And hopefully I'll see you soon.